What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Kid Taj, and today we're going to be talking about something that came up recently in the media. Greg Oden, a guy that, we've known for a while as someone that is a draft bust. He's came into the NBA and didn't fulfill his promise. He was drafted number 1 over Kevin Durant. Yes, all those things. I'm going to cover him, and I'm going to explain why Greg Oden is not a draft bust. And before I do that, I just want to say, if you enjoy this shit, please leave a like. That's, very supportive stuff, and I appreciate every single one of those. Subscribe if you're new and you haven't already, and comment an idea down below. And also, if you haven't checked out my gaming channel, you're into that kind of stuff, it's in the description, the link is, and yeah, let's get into this. So basically, I am not really a guy that likes to poke fun at a player like Greg Oden, especially because, he's went through something that is really not in his control. And he comes out and, after being basically MIA for the past 2-3 years, the guy comes out and he says, hey, I'm gonna go down as the biggest draft bust in NBA history. And you gotta feel for the guy, because if you knew about Greg Oden and what he had to go through, I mean, you wouldn't really, you'd have to sympathize for the guy, because it's not like he was a bad player. No, not even a little bit. And I think that he and Kevin Durant, he made a statement. He said, no, absolutely not. It's nonsense. I totally agree with Kevin Durant. It doesn't really make any sense, because when we think of a bust, we think of a guy that comes in and underperforms, a guy that underwhelms, and in the end is just not, what he was supposed to be. A guy that didn't fulfill his promise, a guy that just wasn't up to par, that was way worse than the guys picked behind him, that, was just such an underachiever, I guess. There's just a lot of ways to define what a draft bust is, and I'm going to set the record straight here and say that Greg Oden isn't really even a bust. Yes, Portland would have been better off taking Kevin Durant number 1, obviously, but they didn't, and I think they had a really valid reasons for taking Greg Oden number 1. I don't think that was an idiotic move in the moment, because of who Greg Oden was in college and, what he looked like coming into the NBA, how much potential he had to be great in the NBA. And it's crazy because you look at his stats. His first 2 seasons in the NBA were his only 2 seasons on the Blazers, 08-09 and 09-10. And in 08-09, Greg Oden, in his rookie year, he started 39 out of 61 games played. And he averaged 9 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 block, shooting 56% from the field. Now, obviously these numbers don't jump out at you, but, they're in 21 minute per game clips. So basically, he was playing 36 minutes a game. He'd probably be up around somewhere like 15, 16 points and 11, 12 rebounds and almost 2 blocks, something like that. And those are very solid numbers for a NBA rookie. He just wasn't getting the time. I mean, you look at his stats, this guy was honestly doing work in the season when he was in the game. They didn't give him enough minutes, and maybe that had something to do with his injuries. Yes, it did. But per sample sizes that he had, he was performing, and he came to play, and he was not a guy that, underachieved. And I'll give you all some examples of guys who underachieved in a minute, but let's take a look at his second season, and this would be his last season in Portland and his second to last year, 09-10. The next season he played after this was 13-14 in Miami, where he only played 23 games and just didn't play after that. It's just a really sad thing. So in 09-10, he played only 21 games for Portland. That's how injury prone he was. He only got to play 21 games, and he started all 21, but only played 24 minutes per game. He averaged 11 points, almost 8 rebounds, and over 2 blocks in, 24 minutes. He shot 60.5% from the field. I mean, again, if you put these into per 36-minute intervals, what does that add up to? Like 16, 17 points, 12 and a half rebounds maybe, something like 3.5 blocks even. So if 17, 12, and 3 for a second-year big man is really nice as well. Those are great numbers. And, maybe Kevin Durant, if these guys were fully healthy, Both of them. Maybe Kevin Durant had a case for being that number 1 pick because Kevin Durant won the Rookie of the Year. He started off pretty strong and he only got better, as we know. But Greg Oden, he was doing his thing over in Portland when he was on the court, when he was playing. And remember, if you're only playing 21 games in a season, it's going to be kind of hard to maintain a rhythm. But Greg Oden, he put up the decent numbers, in limited minutes, and he did his thing. But the injuries. And that's why everyone labels him a bust. It's because of the injuries. And Greg Oden is a guy that we always think of. He shouldn't have been picked number 1. He's going to be thought of as that guy that shouldn't have gone number 1 over KD. That's all he's going to be. And it's sad because this guy had terrible injury problems. And he couldn't control that. Big man with foot injuries, reoccurring foot injuries at that. It's a very unfortunate thing. Now, I said I was going to talk about busts who are really busts. Why Greg Oden is not a bust? Because he got injured. It's not like he wasn't good. It's not like he underperformed. It's like he just couldn't get on the court because his body let him down. It's one of the saddest things in sports. Injuries is probably the worst thing in sports. That's just terrible. This is a guy with all the promise in the world, and it wasn't his fault. It's not like he didn't have the skills or the passion or the talent. It was just his body let him down. That's something that we see a lot in sports. It's very unfortunate, and that's what happened to Greg Oden. Now, a guy that's a bust is Anthony Bennett. This guy picked first overall. Probably wasn't even supposed to be picked first overall. He didn't even crack double digits until 30 games in. A double-figure scoring game he didn't get until 30 games into the season. He missed his first 16 shots of the NBA season, and he's on his 4th team, I believe. And he's in his 4th season now. What, really? Is he in his 4th? Yeah, he's in his 4th season. And this guy couldn't find a team last year. The first pick in the NBA draft, he's the worst first pick of all time. Now, is he the biggest bust ever? Probably not, just because that draft class was pretty bad. And, until Giannis developed and CJ McCollum developed. They had a lot of late bloomers, but it's not like that draft class was full of LeBrons and Kobe's, right? It didn't have Andrew Wiggins or Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Davis. But nonetheless, it had decent players, and Anthony Bennett is far from a decent player. I guess he was just an athlete that could maybe... I don't even know why he was picked number 1. I thought he was terrible. And he still is. He's riding the bench for the Brooklyn Nets worst... Well, not the worst team. They're actually not that bad this year. They're 4-6, I think. Anyway, he's an example. Darko Milicic picked 2nd overall ahead of Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh in the 2003 NBA draft is another example. This is a guy that, to be completely honest, he looked like he was talented, and all the scouts fell for it, and he got picked 2nd overall, and he did win a championship with the Pistons, but his career never mounted anything. So he's a draft bust, and we all know him. Kwame Brown is a huge draft bust as well. He's probably the most known one ever. There's definitely guys that have been picked way too high, and it's a lot of times it's their fault. Like the guys I just named. Kwame Brown had potential. He never utilized it. Darko Milicic, he didn't work hard enough. He didn't utilize his potential. And Anthony Bennett, I don't even think he was that good to begin with. But Greg Oden was good. Greg Oden was solid. He was a future big man, starting big man for a good team. I think that this guy could have been a star in the NBA had it not been for injuries. And unfortunately, that's what happens. So, It's rough. Injuries are definitely one of the hardest parts of the game, but I would never label this guy a draft bust. And he says so, and he's hard on himself, obviously. But, I wouldn't say that. Injuries, it's not your fault. That's going to do it for this video. If y'all have a suggestion, something I should talk about during the NBA season, go ahead, let it fly down in the comments. Please like this shit up if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. And I'm out. Thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.